All right. So, Johnny, turn down the lights. Here we go. So this last session of the week is it's titled a Tech Update, but it's more about bringing in a few more speakers because we had so much opportunity to bring in content from outside this year that I really wanted to try and fit as much as we could. So there's going to be 3 sessions in here, all of them relatively short, but 3 interesting sessions nonetheless. So I would like to welcome Keith Kristalovich, as well as Sarah Skoronski from PHBI, Professional Home Builders Institute. Keith joined PHBI in 2019 as the Director of Education, Business Development, overseeing partnerships, education, business development. Keith's results-driven and passionate about student and customer success to meet the training needs of Canada's residential construction industry. Keith has an extensive background in higher education and news media, including student recruitment, marketing and sales, partner and client relationship management, product and business development. Sarah joined PHBI in 2021. Sarah brings a passion for instructional design and designing creative and engaging learning solutions that keep adult learning principles top of mind. With over 10 years of facilitation, program design, technical writing, editing, and building instructor-led hybrid and e-learning training, Sarah leads curriculum development and innovative training solutions. And before Keith speaks, I just want to say Sarah was instrumental in building our exam question database increase. Did a great job working with our team, and she was just rock star. So Sarah, thanks. Keith, come on up. Give me that mic. There you go.
Thanks, Terry. All right, thanks everyone for joining us this afternoon. Sarah is going to be in the virtual world in the background there, running our slideshow for us. So you won't actually see her today for at least much of her. Just wanted to say thanks for having us out this year. Joining me this week at the conference is Ileana Gomez, sitting here in my front right. She'll stand up. You've probably seen us running the booth in the back there all week. So feel free to come and visit us after if you want from here, but maybe we'll get things going. Sarah, if you can maybe get to the next slide here. So we're here to talk about a few things during our quick presentation today. We want to tell you guys a little bit about who is PHBI, what do we do, and what are we doing here, the partnership that Terry just talked about, and some information on where we're at with the development of this fenestration installer training program, which we're all very excited about. Go ahead, Sarah. So who is PHBI? We were established back in 1987. It was actually a group of builders back in that time and era that decided that we do need to get better trained at what we do to be better at what we do with building homes. So it was established back then. Since that time, we've grown our footprint across the country. We operate under the PHBI brand in Alberta. We actually operate in BC under a BC Builder Training brand. And in Ontario, we have another brand called Training Ontario. These are our logos. Go ahead, Sarah. We are part of the Alberta New Home Warranty Program group of companies. We're actually one of the companies in this group. It is exactly what it says. We do warranty for the new home builder industry. So we have a lot of invested interest in making sure windows and doors are installed properly during a build cycle because there are warranty claims that are a result of that. I'm going to show you some information about that in a couple slides down. So we are more than just an education institute for industry. We consider ourselves part of industry. We live, breathe, we see everything that's going on, going good, going wrong. And what how PHBI participates in that is we create training and education to fix things, make things better. This is just going to be a quick picture of what our group of companies looks like. Go ahead, Sarah. So you can see we have the Alberta New Warranty Program. This is a broker that sells the warranty in the province of Alberta because of regulatory rules that we follow. We have to have a brokerage that is licensed in the province of Alberta. The insurance corporation is our actually underwriter, and then of course PHBI falls into one of those companies. Get you to slide that over, Sarah. And then we have a broker that works outside of the province of Alberta because of different licensing that works for the warranty programs out there. So we basically cover warranty in the Western Canadian region right now. PHBI itself, I'll get Sarah to keep going through the slides here. actually operates nationally. So actually go back one more, Sarah. Sorry, jump ahead there. So our foundation is we have a subject matter expertise pool that is located across the country. These are the individuals that have the expertise in creating the curriculum that we actually create and facilitate instructional design, then offer out. We have an education advisory committee that we have participants from various regions of the country, various regions of the industry. Fenestration Canada is now participating in that, and Adrian's in the room here. I saw him someplace. He's one of the people that sits in our committee now. And this is to get voice and information from industry on a regular basis. We meet every 6 months, trying to find out what is happening, what areas of education need to be developed and brought together, and again, to make the industry better what they do. We form partnerships across the country. In a lot of cases, we develop our own curriculum. In a lot of cases, we will also seek out curriculum that makes sense to seek out and is very applicable to the industry. And the Fenestration Canada partnership is one of those partnerships that have been added to our list. Get you to go next slide, Sarah. And then this is, again, just a quick snapshot of what we look like across the country. Some of our partnerships there. We have partnerships with post-secondary, polytechnic schools, McGill University, Fenestration Canada, the regulatory bodies that operate in the provinces where applicable. We support their mandatory course and licensing education programs. Terrion's one of our partners in the East. So we got a lot of things happening across the country. And then I wanted to jump into how we got to where we are today. So go ahead, Sarah. So the road to development. This initiative, this window and door installation partnership program started back in October 2020. It was a COVID conversation at the time. None of us were hanging out together. It was all online. Met an individual, name is Richard McLaughlin. Richard was here earlier. I'm not sure he's around the room today or not. But came to me during a COVID call and talked to me about this need for this development of this kind of training. It didn't take us long to kind of figure out this kind of made sense to us, and our group of companies made a commitment at that point to get into it. Following that, I met the Fenestration Canada group. I think Terry was on the call, and Adrian, and I think we had Scott and Ron, and there's a bunch of people I then met within a short period of time. By January of that year, we assembled a group together. We had a subject matter expertise base from Fenestration Canada, Canadian Home Builders Association, the CSA 440.4 committee, building science experts from across the country, window installer experts from across the country, and we met to talk about this. Should we do it or should we not? Because from an education provider like us, we need the SME pool, subject matter expertise pool, working together to help us get the right information, the right content together, so we have the right program put together. It was actually, quite honestly, a pretty heated debate for a period of time there, but it all came together, and everyone agreed to move forward, and this is where we got to. What was our invested interest as our group of companies? This is some of the warranty data that I keep getting a warranty group to keep updating for me when I do this presentation. This gives you an idea of some of the claims that we see happening after this is the window slides. There's like, again, we're talking about leakage, ice and frost buildup, things like that. And I'll get Sarah to quickly move to the next slide. Doors, we're tracking from all claims are related to installation issues. Go ahead, Sarah, next slide. So this is again some of the summary of the claims. I won't go list them all to you because we only got so much time here. But that's kind of what we're tracking, what we're seeing. It happens pretty consistently. We got the door ones next here. And we'll just go to, and the last slide here. Yeah, so sorry, go back one more, Sarah. Jumped ahead. So the bottom line is our warranty department, our claims experts that are out there tracking claims and looking to see what's happening when a window and door claim comes through. They basically have concluded it's primarily due to improper installation that causes those specific claims. So they're definitely, we feel, it didn't take us long to figure out this makes sense for us to jump into this partnership. And here we are. So move to the next slide. And this is where I hand it over to Sarah in the virtual world to talk to you guys a little more about where we're at with the development of this program.
Thanks so much, Keith. And thanks, Terry, for the earlier shout out. You have no idea how much fun I had building exam questions with your team. It was a lot of fun, yourself included. So thanks for letting me be part of the project. As Keith mentioned, I came on board this project in 2021 when the project was first launching. Got to meet with lots of the Fenestration Canada people, which was fantastic. Lots of the Fenestration Canada people were actually members of one of our very early subject matter expert groups. So what we've done on the project to date, starting in 2021, the first thing was first, we developed this occupational chart and a list of competencies for fenestration installers. Before we developed education, we needed to know what were the core competencies, what did they really need to know? And based on these competencies that we developed with a group of 25 to 30 subject matter experts, we built out a curriculum to provide essentially the appropriate fenestration installer program. We wanted to make sure we weren't only just thinking about things like lifting a window properly into the rough opening and securing it properly. We also want to think about critical thinking, items like this, making sure that we're covering the gamut of what installers should know when they're installing a window or door. So to date, we have content is still being developed, but we're almost at the home stretch here. We're almost finished. It's going to be about 50 hours of online self-directed content. So a huge amount of content. We've developed course assets like course manuals, exam questions, e-learning, classroom PowerPoint decks, and all of the content is really grounded in the NBC 2020 and the CSA 440.4. So we want to make sure we're covering the most important pieces first. And then in addition to that, our subject matter experts are helping us build out what they would consider best practices, really making sure that they're teaching out sound building science and installation practices. We're going to focus a little bit more on technical content in the windows and doors classroom because we can appreciate this is the meat of the program and this is where students would probably really like the opportunity to ask questions of their instructor, problem solve, go through hypothetical scenarios, that type of thing. We did actually launch our first classroom in March of 2024, so we just wrapped up not too long ago. Given that we're still developing some of this content, it was only part one of the session. So I believe some of the Fenestration Canada members sat in on a few of the classes too. So we really appreciate you taking the time and providing us with some additional feedback there. But we're really excited to launch the classroom. We had a fabulous cohort, get a lot of questions and good learning in. So we do have some of the classroom content built out and we're targeting a second, part two, if you will, of the class in the fall of 2024, probably closer to Q4, once the building season isn't quite so busy and robust. So now, pardon me, I got ahead of myself here. We've launched that first classroom cohort. And as I mentioned, 50 hours of content is a huge amount of learning, whether it's in the classroom or whether it's self-directed online. So we've split it into basically 6 competency areas. We've got the reading and document use, so thinking about what it looks like to interact with plans, manufacturer schedules, that CSA 440.4, etc. Communication and critical thinking that we move into next. Then air, vapor, weather barriers, and rough openings. There's a lot of building science in there, really specific to the fenestration installer. Then we get into interior window installation and exterior window installation and exterior door installation. So taken together, these courses will be treated as separate. So it'll be a separate learning piece, a separate exam, and then all together, if people work their way through all 6, they will take a final exam and get for the PHBI Fenestration Installer Program. And our goal in working so closely with Fenestration Canada is really making sure that we address the competencies that Fenestration Canada has outlined too for the FIT exam, the certification. And we want to make sure that taking this education will really set people up for success to move on and take that certification exam through Fenestration Canada. So what you've all been waiting for, I'm going to just shift over screens here. This is a sample of our e-learning. So I am going to
Welcome to the
launch it.
Fenestration Installer Program, the history and evolution of exterior doors module.
So you will hear right away that this whole course is actually narrated. So I'm going to mute it for now, but as students are working their way through this program, myself, I learn better by reading. So I might go here and read the narration file. However, lots of people learn really well auditorily. So then they have the option to listen to the entire narration, all of the course content as well. Something else they can do, oh, pardon me, everyone, is they can actually change the playback speed. So just like a video on YouTube, perhaps they really want to absorb that content, or English is not their first language, they can easily slow down the pace of narration or speed it up as well, if that works better for their learning style. And I should warn you, this is a demo module, so it might not all seem quite like it hangs together quite properly. It's not a whole piece of content, rather it's just some samples so you can see how some of the interaction will happen, even if it's someone online self-directed without an instructor, that there are interactive components to these courses. And so you'll notice right away that some of this content is split up with buttons. And this is really deliberate, just to chunk it a little bit better for the students. It's easier for course participants if it's smaller chunks of content. And the other thing, really nerdy adult learning stuff has shown that I love, but I won't bore you with in detail. Essentially, you want people interacting with your course. If you let it play and people don't have to interact with it, what they end up doing is getting distracted. They might get onto other tasks, they might take phone calls or answer emails, or just get busy with the rest of their day. So we try to make sure that each individual is interacting with our course. The other piece is we just, visually like to mix it up a little bit. So here you'll see some icons, and the content is actually tied to the timing here. So more and more content unfolds, so to speak. If you have a quick peek at the narration, this is a huge chunk of content. So we want to make sure we chunk it out well for the participants so that they don't get overwhelmed with it at first. The other thing we're doing is adding a few drawings just to give people a really good sense. In this case of the anatomy of a door, we want to make sure that people can really understand visually as well, to have some nice visuals in place for them, in addition to just blurting out text and content at them. This is just kind of a fun demo slide that we prepared for you all, just why interactivity is important in e-learning. And as I mentioned earlier, it's good to engage students. And so we've done a few things in our courses. We have quizzes and learning assessments, and I should actually add scenarios here as well. I'll explain a little bit more. Gamification, it can be a little bit more fun when it seems more like a game. Scenario-based questions, as I alluded to earlier, and videos as well, just to mix up the media a little bit as well. So in our courses, we actually call our quizzes knowledge checks, because the purpose isn't to assess the participant, the purpose is only to reinforce the knowledge that they've just been through. So in this case, I'm going to just choose the wrong answer here. I'm going to get another opportunity to try, also choosing the wrong answer. And on my third attempt, I'm going to end up with the right answer. The nice thing here is I didn't get that question right the first time, but I'm getting the feedback layer here. So I don't have to go and sift back through my course manual or through this e-learning course. If it's something that didn't land the first time I went through, then I'm able to just refer to it here and hopefully reinforce the learning at this point. So then we just go through a little bit, a few more questions. We have a few different types of questions as well. And here, as I told you earlier, we have a bit of a scenario. So rather than just asking a straight up front question, true, false, or multiple choice, we give a bit of a scenario. We actually did extensive focus groups in 2023, and the most consistent feedback we heard across, I believe it was 5 different focus groups, was that adult learners really, really want scenarios. It's one thing to give them the theory, but if they can understand it in a scenario that they might actually encounter in their everyday work lives, the content just lands so much better. So that was the only single thing all of our focus groups agreed on. And all of the content that we developed in the latter half of 2023 at PHBI and Training Ontario and BC Builder Training, our feedback was actually so happy with the scenarios, wish you'd had more. So, so we're trying to incorporate more and more of those to ensure, and again, we have our feedback layer here, to ensure our learners are getting what they need. And so again, we just have a few icons here to break up chunk the content a little bit. We get into our summary piece, etc., etc. The other piece I want to show you, this is what I would call a game in a sense, and almost a really super, super detailed scenario, essentially. we've been working on developing, in this case, it's called a reading and document use simulation game.
Welcome to the Fenestration Installer Program.
So the goal here is actually to get people working with everything they've been learning in great detail. So here is a full simulation, and there's a bit of an introduction, and then learners need to answer 40 questions around this very detailed scenario. And what it is, I'm going to go to the resources here. This is an actual set of house plans that a builder provided to us, and also a window schedule. So the identifying information has been taken out, but this is from an actual building project here in Alberta. So I'm going to go back to this. We're going to get started on our simulation game. Here it explains a little bit that the goal is just to review all the documentation. So if you show up at a building site to install windows, you might have access to the plans. You should have access to the window schedule. Hopefully you have a nice electronic copy of your A440 4.4 sitting around, but just working through what you might need to know and how you might be using those documents. So we get here, and here the first question is a little bit more basic. So you have access to the blueprints, installation, safety guidelines. What's kind of your first step when you show up at a construction project? So let's just take a break. We'll worry about the documents later. All right, you knew I was toying with you, hey? So here it's an incorrect answer, and it tells me what I should have done. I should have probably started, with the project requirements, the plans, maybe. Really make sure I know what I'm doing before I get into it. So let's say I want to review the blueprints first. Awesome, I got the right answer on this one. Then it gets more detailed. So now I'm actually going to have to refer to my blueprint, look at the layout of each floor, and according to the blueprint, I have to figure out which room has the largest window opening. Here I have this hint, select all that apply, so it might be more than one of these rooms. So I'm going to have to actually go to my plans, and I'm going to have to review them and really figure out, going through, this is just the roof plan, going through the main floor, and I'm also probably going to want to review the second floor in detail and figure out which are the two largest openings. So I can go back, I can answer my question here, and oh great, I've only seen this 100 times, so I got the question correct. I'm so lucky. And again, now I'm going to go to the blueprint and look at the elevation views and really count how many windows are required in my project. So I'm going to go do that. And then how many windows can open? Another great question. It's just another thing I'll have to really look at in detail on my drawings. And I'll just show you one more before I wrap up here. This is a kind of a neat little trick question, because the plans that we ended up with actually don't correspond with the window schedule. So then we start walking through questions about how to deal with this discrepancy. So lots of great learning tools in here. I hope it'll be our inaugural class. Really enjoyed it. So hopefully we'll be able to pass that on to future learners as well. But yeah, that was just a little bit of a demo that I wanted to share with you today. And I think Keith and I are happy to answer any questions either now, or Keith and Ileana, and we'll be at the booth later this afternoon as well too. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Sarah. That's great. And yeah, just wrapping up, if you want more information about what we're doing in the plans and what more detail of the course, Ileana and I are just in the booth in the back there. You guys feel free to drop by and see us. Happy to share information with you, and or get you information once the course is fully developed and up and running. You get to see the whole thing at some point. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Any questions for Keith or Sarah? I mean, we are tight on time, but I want to make sure that we give opportunity. So talk fast, Adrian.
It's Adrian, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm gonna grind her first, right? So first off, thank you guys so much. I just wanted to reinforce the feedback that I have on that course. So I had the privilege of getting to see the first one through. I think what you've done remarkably, and it was a really difficult task. I think this was one of the issues with install. You have to know a fair bit about the Windows systems, the envelope, and the install. All three had to be on the table in order for you to do this successfully. So I just want to issue a congratulations. You did that remarkably. And I know there's little tweaks we've talked about, but it's a great first step.
Thanks very much.
Anybody else? Okay. Severe. Okay.
So I understood it's a 50-hour roughly course.
That is correct. Yeah.
And what is the cost structure of that?
We're working on the cost structure right now. The full program is listed. I think it's listed on our website for $14.50.
I think that's what.
$14.50 is the price. Yeah, for the full gamut.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Thanks, Keith, Sarah, Ileana. And I do
Thanks.
want to say that PHBI is our education sponsor this week. So we really appreciate that and really enjoy working with you guys. Okay. Is Drew here? Drew? Okay. Come on up. So next up, we have Drew Webb from Tremco, who's going to talk about volatile organic compounds. Let me just find your. We must be getting near the end. I know it's here. Right there. This one is forward, I believe. So forward is the down button. Sorry, yeah. Oops. There you go. Here.
Oh, this is going great so far, guys. Hey, how you doing, everybody? Thank you, Terry, for the introduction. As Terry said, I'm Drew Webb. I'm a sales manager with Tremco Canada, and I'm here to talk to you about the exciting world of federal sealant regulations. So just a little outline of the presentation I'm going to give here. I'm going to talk about what VOCs are, kind of the context of why we're discussing this, the new Canadian regulations that were put in place, and some of the technical information that will affect you as the end user of these products. So what are VOCs, or volatile organic compounds? They're basically chemicals that vaporize or off-gas from sealants and other products at room temperature, and they lead to pollution. So when they react with nitrogen, you can see in this picture what they form, quite a bit of smog. So we really want to get rid of that. The major contributors in our industry of VOCs are paints, adhesives, and sealants. So they can have a major impact on health and the environment. So there's been a big push over the years to try to reduce these. So you can see it's considered a toxic substance. So obviously, the less of these we have, the better. So just a little bit of the context. We haven't had very good VOC regulations in Canada over the years, and this is starting to change. We've got an agreement in place with the US to try to reduce our air pollution overall. The ozone annex, fancy way of saying an amendment to the act, was added to help combat transboundary air pollution to reduce smog and increase air quality. So these new regulations are basically designed to help us meet our commitments that we've made both nationally and internationally to try to combat air pollution. So the VOCs do play a huge role in that. So these reductions, as I talked about before, should lead to better air quality and better health outcomes for people in general. So the regulation, it was introduced. You can see that's a website where you can get it from. It is very long, very convoluted. It took everybody a while to figure out exactly what they were asking for from us. But the most important points of this is that it came into effect January 1st of this year. So basically what that means is that Canadian manufacturers are no longer allowed to manufacture these high VOC sealants, adhesives, and caulkings. and you can't import them either. So you can't find something from a country that allows higher VOC levels and bring it into the country. So this particular part of the legislation applies to personal care products, automotive and household, adhesives, adhesive removers, sealants, and caulks, and some other products as well. So obviously we're going to focus on the adhesives and sealants and caulks. So again, it is 100% prohibited for us as manufacturers or importers to use these highly solvated products now. There are a couple of exemptions, and these are when you're manufacturing them for export only, if they're in less than 30 mil containers, or if they're just being transported through the country. So this column here shows the full portion of the legislation that relates. I know it's a bit of an eye chart, but I just wanted you to focus on D there. D shows that this does not apply to clear caulking. Now, the big reason for that is clear caulking is notoriously difficult to make. A lot of caulkings and sealants use a product called carbon black, which you can't use in clear for obvious reasons. You don't want it to be black. So that one, the clear products are exempt from this. All other colors are expected to meet the regulation. So the four major types of sealant technologies out there, I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of these. I'll give you an example of a Tremco product for each, because those are the ones I know. Silicone would be something like Tremsil 600, your NeutroCure products often used in a glazing application. Polyurethanes used more so in commercial installations would be something like Dimonic 100. Hybrids, which combine different technologies together to try to maximize the positive benefits, would be something like a Dimonic FC. And the one that is really affected by this are the thermoplastics. This is the go-to technology usually for residential installers. It's really easy to use. It's got self-leveling properties that basically come from being highly solvated because it's off-gassing, so it shrinks a bit and it has that nice effect where it lays down. So this is the one that's going to be affected the most. More of an install play. There is some implant use for thermoplastics, becoming less and less, but installers, especially in Ontario, I believe Alberta as well, Manitoba, they still kind of move towards the thermoplastics as their exterior sealant. So this is where we're going to land. This is where this is becoming the biggest issue. A lot of the manufacturers who do make thermoplastic sealants have found new technologies, been able to modify their formulas in order to meet the regulations that are out there now. So that's about all I got. I just wanted to give everyone a quick update on what's coming down the line. I know we've been getting a lot of questions about it as we've changed our products. And it's important to know, so you know when you're dealing with your installers or any of your implant products that may fall into this category, that there will be some changes, or there are changes right now. So if anybody has any questions about this, please let me know. Yes, Mr. Flaherty?
Just learning.
Yeah, a slow learner. Any impact on the performance of the product?
From what we've seen, no. It's been nothing but positives. This is something that's actually made us improve on a formula. It's a really old technology. So the fact that we're updating it is actually a positive right now. So it's gotten rid of some of the negative things associated with it. Obviously, the obvious ones being the VOCs, and allowed us to improve on some of the other performance aspects of the sealant as well.
So as long as you're not going on the dark web and buying your sealants from, you know,
I know there is a major market out there.
Yeah, I know it's a big item. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you're probably no impact to your actual operation. Really.
No, it shouldn't be. It should be a fairly seamless transition for your installers.
There was a discussion yesterday about PFAS. Is there anything that you can share with us about that in the composition of your materials?
It's not something that's come up for us that's a major concern, but I'm not a chemist, so I don't know off the top of my head. it's something we can definitely get you more information on if you want.
It was a big conversation yesterday, so you can count on getting some emails asking about that.
All right, super. I look forward to it.
So is this just being monitored now, or are there any like mandates or timelines for use and not use?
The end users can still use these products while they're still available, but from my understanding, all the major manufacturers of thermoplastics in Canada and North America, because you haven't been able to use thermoplastics in the US for a long time now, have switched over their operation to compliant products. So in the marketplace, I believe there's, depending on where you're looking, you may see it around for the next 2 or 3 months, and then it'll be all the new stuff only.
Yeah, thanks.
So you said the performance doesn't change. Does it change its use, like how it comes out of the gun, how it tools? Is there any differences when the concoction has changed?
Yeah, that was obviously a major concern with us when we were reformulating. We really wanted to be the
Slumping and more slump.
Yeah, no, none of that has really changed. If anything, like I said, there's been improvements in the idea that there's less bubbles, the cure time's more consistent on it. The colors are a lot more vibrant when we put them in, so that like I was expecting a lot more issues. We tested it for about 18 months and found that we didn't get any consistent negative feedback from anyone. They found it to be a very seamless transition. So even this, like the self-leveling quality of the sealant is still there as well, even though there's significantly less VOCs in it.
All right. Thanks, Drew.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Okay, give me about 1 minute, and we're going to have our final session of the week with Paul. And Paul's here somewhere. There he is. Okay, what's going on here? I want to make sure that it's good. We should come up here any second now. So I'd like to welcome for our last session of the day, Municipal Affairs Provincial Administrator Paul Chang walks us through the building discipline session, learn about some of the changes in the National Building Code 2023 Alberta edition, and discuss technical changes, explore the harmonization project, and gain insight into the application of Alberta's Tier 1 for Section 936 of the NBC Alberta edition and the National Energy Code for Building 2020. I just want to say, we're always trying to find connections and government regulators that will engage with us. I just want to say that Paul has engaged with us. He's really, opened up his doors, lots of great communication. He's been to several events now and presented for us. So, we love it when government comes and talks to us because it helps us get through our day. So, Paul Chang. No. You can beat up Paul. Go ahead. That's all good.
Yeah, I'll just blame it on the government. Yeah, it's going to be short and sweet, I think, because I'm between you guys and supper, I think. Okay, I'll just real quick going through. Alberta has a safety code system under the Safety Codes Act where every building construction discipline under the inspectors and regulations is under the one act. So there are other administrators that are under fire, electrical, elevators, plumbing, gas, private sewage, and pressure vessels, and we're all under the one act, and we all talk to each other. So Municipal Affairs, Mr. Rick McIver, he couldn't make it today. Deputy Minister Brandy Cox, and Provincial Administrator position. It's an appointed position by by ministerial order, so it is a statutory position, and I'm going to scoot through this real quick too. Through ministerial order, so under that, I get assigned a certain range of powers, which allows me to do the stand data that we did there with the window opening control devices, and that's called a variance, alternative solution variance, and that is considered the rule, or same as code, province-wide. So you don't have to go to this city, and say, can I use this? Here's an alternative solution. That can still happen, but when it's a province-wide issue, then it comes to me. And then we look at it, is it a province-wide issue? And we work through that system with stakeholders, such as Fenestration Canada, and then we end up with a standard. It doesn't always happen, but when it happens, that's how we do it. I doubled up on that. So all the systems basically under Safety Codes Act must meet requirements of the provincial law, which includes all the applicable codes and standards. And then on the responsibilities of the act, there's the owner's care and control, design duties, manufacturer's duties, contractors and vendors' duties. So it applies to anybody that deals with the building code, electrical codes, and so on, but also for vendors and so on. Everybody has their responsibility identified under the act. So basically it says, here's your responsibilities, lays it out in compliance with the act. And it has 21 regulations and 11 safety disciplines. Under Safety Codes Council website, where to get a permit will indicate which municipalities and where you can get a permit. So there are areas that don't do permits. That'll be federal lands and First Nation lands. So under professional schedules, we work with the Architects Association, PEGA, the Professional Engineers and Geoscientists, Safety Codes Council, and ourselves, developing professional schedules for the Part 3 buildings. So once they're involved, they have to provide certain schedules in the start of the project and for completion of the project. Of course, there's the encapsulated mass timber construction buildings, 12-story. We did it under standard the last code cycle to allow this to go ahead. And now it's within the National Building Code 2020 and incorporated, of course, in the NBC 2023. And that's up to 12-story, and we're already getting asked about the 18 stories. So that might come along as well. So Adrian has spoken on quite a bit of this stuff, so it's probably a bit of a repeat. Combustible window sashes and frames now permitted in non-combustible construction or EMTC buildings. So that's mass timber buildings, and you can deal with the space between them as you need for your contiguous installations. Transparent doors and panels. Of course, that would be safety glazing as required for transparent doors and panels. And of course, my notes aren't showing up, so I'm winging it right now. What happened? Okay, no worries. Okay, safety glazing, again, as Adrian had alluded there, or had said, parts 3 and parts 9, there's safety glazing required around tubs and showers. That was added in to the 2020 National Building Code, but we've had it in the Alberta codes for the past 2 or 3 code cycles. And so now they're harmonizing with us. Safety glazing as well is now prescribed in assembly occupancies in certain locations where impact can happen. So like in pools, pool halls, bars, and so forth, there are certain locations and for certain heights and distances that safety glazing would be required. Okay, so certain locations, there's safety glass. No numbers put in here because I stole the picture. Okay, exit doors. Of course, you're going to have your exit doors. You'll push hardware and so forth. But under exit doors, there's the typical exit doors and exit signage. Under the new allowances in certain occupancies where there have occupants with cognitive disabilities, you're now allowed to have a door that doesn't look like a door. Basically, they can put murals on them and so on. It's only in the certain occupancy type, and then there is certain procedures for who can use it and so forth. What's happened in facilities with dementia patients they'll go and try a door and it says, it'll release in 15 seconds, it'll alarm or whatever. But they will try it until it eventually opens because they recognize it as a door. There's something there. So if they don't recognize it as a door, they'll go and see a cabinet and then walk on. And so it's to reduce that situation. They've had situations where patients will go out a door, and if it's not alarmed, they don't know about it. And if it's in the middle of winter, which has happened, then bad things happen. So part 5, environmental separation. Of course, adding to information and drawings, required in drawings, be clear and legible. So this is going to be Division C, part 2, when you have professional involvement. So anything with environmental separations, they're going to, require professional involvement. So hopefully they're doing it correctly, so you have something to work from. That's also consistent with what code requires and what you can do within your world. Again, new materials and standards applicable to environmental separators and assemblies. Part 9, again, protection of windows. This change did come through Alberta as presented to the National Building Code committees. And it was, again, I can't remember who had mentioned that. It was through the medical doctors association, I believe it was, or medical doctors, with lots of lobbying through the government and other avenues to add this into the code. So it was presented via Alberta to the National Building Code. So the protection of windows, that's an Alberta thing that is now national, but the intent was to reduce the possibility of small children going through windows. However, you see that one there, that's not going to help anything because there's a chair there. So your window could open, it's at the right height, but it was to show that you can't codify everything. Provide the right window, provide the right height or whatever. Kids will be kids and kids climb. So under building code variance, the administrator could issue a variance that's applicable across the province and published through our website, which we did with the WOCD variance to recognize, is that 30, what's the ASTM number again? F29. Oh, here it is. What the heck? I have it in here. So, and this has been provided to Fenestration Canada. So these are all linked into the document. And then what that is, again, the stand data process, which I believe is unique in Alberta, for Alberta across the country, that we are able to issue certain documents that will recognize, especially new technology. The code can't keep up with certain technologies and so forth, that we can recognize it if it meets certain criteria, such as meeting natural standard. That standard that's not recognized within the National Building Code. We can recognize that early. And same like the 12-story, possibly the 18-story EMTC building. If that's recognized to be coming into the National Code, we could look at that if the proper process is followed before that tree shows up in the National Code, or as a second printing or an interim printing for Alberta. Section 936, Tier 1, Energy Efficiency, Tier 1. Alberta has issued a stand data in regards to what is prescribed in our regulations for adopting Tier 1. It was supported by Build Alberta, the building industry, and stakeholders. So we did do stakeholder engagement. And even though there are some builders building to higher tiers, it was found that in certain areas, they like to do the Tier 1 and they're good. But if we work on Tier 1, we can address the issues now that we'll find with inspection, submission of plans, the templates, energy advisors, and so on. And we are working with the Canadian Association of Certified Energy Advisors to work on template documents. So whatever we run into in tier 1, if we can try and address those issues now, we don't jump to tier 2 or tier 3 and find those same issues. Well, there'll be new issues possibly, likely, and we'll address it then. But we're trying to figure out tier 1, so it's for the inspectors. Of course, there was one thing in there where under National Building Code of Canada, if you didn't do by energy performance design, it didn't say you were required to do blower door testing. It just gave you a higher number for your air changes an hour. So to prove it, you had to do blower door testing. It was optional, but it was almost mandatory. So we took that out of Alberta, the Alberta edition, and made the air changes an hour the same for whether it's prescriptive or the presented air changes an hour, whether it was prescriptive or by energy performance. So then if you want to go lower than 2.5 air changes an hour, then you would do blower door tests. And then that made it also more consistent across the board. We are working with energy advisors and so forth, should things change. And the other thing we did was, in certain municipalities were thinking of jumping to tier 2 or 3 on their own because they had a charter. And there was some inconsistencies in the interpretation of the wording, and we rewrote our portion of 936 to indicate tier 1 is the minimum, and then the rest of the tiers are optional. Whereas we didn't want an inconsistent approach across the province for every municipality pick their own tier. They could do that by incentivizing going to a higher tier, but not under the Safe Builds Act. Climatic data has changed, so that's just a quick map. And sorry.
Yeah, someone sent me a document a couple months ago, and it's called BILD Alberta.
Build Alberta?
Yeah. And
Yep.
in it,
they have 10 issues.
And it says here, tier code, while presented in this code, tier compliance will not be enforced and is reserved for marketing purposes by consumer demand.
Tier compliance of tiers 2 and up.
It doesn't
For
say
the,
that.
yeah, there it was.
It just says tier compliance will not be enforced.
Yeah, they're talking higher than the base.
Tier 1. Okay.
Yeah, tier 1 will be enforced. Yeah, we actually went over that with them, but we probably missed how that wording came out. But we did, yeah. Yeah. We'll probably touch base with Bill and say, hey, maybe we'll have to add another word or something. We did look at it. So we do work closely with Build. And they shared that document. We provide some information that they put in there to clarify the air changes an hour, some of the Alberta specific changes we did to address some of the concerns. And one of the other concerns under tier 1 was the peak cooling loads. The way it was presented at the time, there was concerns with it that it was causing issues that were unintended consequences. Not saying that you shouldn't have cooling in the house to address that, but their method for doing peak cooling loads was a concern even for the energy advisors, and that would affect the fenestration industry drastically one way or another. So that is being looked at the national level to address some of the concerns, which could include requiring cooling, us maybe similar to BC or just requiring it. We don't know yet. And then there is a percentage level they're looking at. So that's a little bit outside, or a lot outside my scope, but the energy advisors were telling me or informing me that is being looked at a national level in relation to that to address the concerns. So we're not dealing with that specifically in Alberta because we made subsection 936.7 and 936.8 are optional. And that's where peak cooling load kicks in, is you have to jump to 936.7 or 936.8. Oops, where am I going? Oh, National Energy Code of Canada for buildings. Again, energy efficiency tier 1, it's written in our regulations that the NDCB selected by Alberta as the applicable mandatory tier. And again, it's optional that you could fall to go to a higher tier, build a passive house, whatever. But that's optional. But we are looking at the building industry looked at that and to try to jump to a higher tier, and especially now they're looking housing attainability and affordability. They're competing agendas when you're trying to add a cost to a house when it's not an issue of health and safety and try and get a lot of houses out. So they are competing agendas, and the government is looking at that. And so is the industry as well. They're looking at things as well. If you add that, it gets transferred to the consumer, the bottom line, and then it'll be a less of a market for people trying to get into housing, as it already is now. Again, the energy performance new part 10 introduced in NECB. Basically, NECB 2020, you follow that prescriptively or the performance path, and you've met code. And to go to the higher tiers, you show or design how much the percentage better than you are than tier 1 will give you the applicable tiers. Contour map, again, that's showing your average heating degree days. We are working on another stand data dealing with heat pump requirements and so forth. That's not addressed in the current code or the National Building Code of Canada. So this is one map, and we're going to be doing another map to show some compliance requirements for different or new refrigeration equipment. Again, National Building Code 23 Alberta edition is free download from the NRC site. If you buy the paper copy, it's $100, and it's heavy and 2 big books. NECB 2020, again, also free download from NRC. And in discussions with NRC, they're expecting or hoping by later this summer to have the intent statements, the user's guides for the building and energy codes for the NBC 2020 and the NECB 2020. So they are working on that. They were hoping to have it out earlier, but it's just one of those things. So they are working on that to get that publication out. Again, that's the publication site where you get the current codes and past codes, because for Alberta, we have the things for existing buildings that you don't necessarily bring it up to today's code, because you put in a high-end performance window on a 2x4 wall is not going to help a whole lot. It will help, but the thing with using old code under sometimes a fire discipline or even the building discipline, as long as you're not decreasing the safety or performance of the building, then you can almost do like for like. But what you can buy now, you're not getting your usual single pane installations. They're usually looking for some sort of upgrade. And that was, like I said, short and sweet. Questions?
Thanks, Paul. One of the slides that referenced the combustible, non-combustible.
Yeah.
It looked like you're saying that change applies to EMTC buildings.
Also, yes.
But that's not what it says in the NBC. Did Alberta do something through a variance?
No, that's where it says in the NBC.
The EMTC did not change. It stayed at 1 meter separation.
Oh, I didn't put a separation in there. I said that had to be taken care of by you guys.
Okay, I get you. Okay.
I don't have
I thought you were saying that it was referencing the change.
It's referencing the change that you can use them without combustible windows.
Okay. Didn't really change then. Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Because under EMTC, it's everything else. Even for electrical, you reference the section for non-combustible construction.
Okay.
So you'll see a lot of things. If you deal with the EMT section, it's not referenced there. It'll send you to requirements for non-combustible construction.
Yeah, in the other section, it gives you a non-contiguous statement.
Yeah.
Whereas in the EMT section, it still says 1 meter separation.
But you are allowed. Before you weren't allowed combustible.
Okay, thank you.
Now you are. Made that up.
I think it's fair to assume there'll be some confusion on sites with WOCDs. I think the stand data will cover 95% of that. Is there an avenue for us to reach out to your office for the 5% that might not solve?
Let me, where did I put that? Yeah, I'm not gonna give you my email. Oh, here it is. Yeah, and it will be, that's included in the slide deck, but safety.services@gov.ab.ca. That's my team of building technical advisors take turns taking calls during the day. And it's like anything else. Any stand data, any document, it takes care of most of the situations. And if you have the oddball one, we'll try to help. If we can, we'll do our best. But sometimes it's like, well, you can't use that. You just have to raise your window or something. We don't know the situation, but neither will you until somebody asks that question. What about this? So, but we try to do that is clarify interpretations and provide opinions from our office through the DD officer, and they're called opinions because the authority having jurisdiction is the HJ, and then if it comes down to if there's an ambiguity in the code that would affect province-wide or even a municipality, and I provide my interpretation, if it comes from me as an interpretation, then that would take precedence. But that's handled very carefully.
Terry, I don't know if this is for Paul or for yourself, but for those of us in the room that don't know the difference, what's the difference between a tier and a step? BC has step,
Yeah,
here is
BC
tier.
has a step code. The rest of the country has a tiered code.
Okay.
Except for
Lucky us.
Except for Ontario, that is limited to
SB12.
SB12.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just they call their tier steps, and they don't like they. I believe they said it doesn't exactly align. Oh, that was in a meeting I was this morning. Presentation from BC talking about what steps they are at, but they also provide the steps and provide the municipalities to pick their steps. And then Vancouver, City of Vancouver can pick their own because they're a charter city.
BC has more hills, so there's steps. The rest of the country has more tiers because they're not BC.
I forgot that slide, Terry. Sorry.
So for the safety glazing for showers and tubs, are you saying that a shower door is required for those?
I'm not saying a shower door. It's the glazing is required to be safety glazing. If you put one in, if it's a curtain, then that's not glazing. Yeah, like I said, I went through it pretty quick.
Quizzical look on your face.
Well, I think my question might be stupid, but I'm going to do it anyways. So I don't know if I understand the stand data process.
Okay.
This sounds, I don't, do we do that? Do we do that in Ontario?
No.
That's why I don't understand it. So is there a bunch of window opening control devices that are already approved under the stand data, or you have to apply for this in order to have it? How does this work?
Yeah. If it's certified, it complies. So if a new manufacturer comes out, says, I've done my this design, got their certification, that stand data covers it.
Okay, good.
You don't come for each one. We don't do product. We're not doing product approval.
Right.
It have to be a product that qualifies under the ASTM F2090 standard.
Yeah, I was smitten with this fear that my reporting on this had been wrong, and that there was actually some sort of case by case situation. It happens all the time. No.
Oh no, the case was the one case of Fenestration Canada and dealing with that standard, but not a case by product, because we don't do product or product or specific item certification or recognition.
Paul, thank you very much.
Okay,
Appreciate your time. Great. Thank you.